Alright everybody, so welcome back. We are installing a Natural Cleft Bluestone Patio in this video. Right away we lay down our base, and installing a patio base we'll make a separate video on in the future because there's a lot that goes into that, and it's pretty much a full video's worth. But basically, once you have your base down, you screed some sand out normally for a patio, some sand or a float layer, and then you'd lay your stones right on that. However, because these stones are so irregular and they are actually a split cut stone, we screed out the sand, and then basically every single stone we'd set down on that screeded sand, and then we'd have to take back out, throw some extra sand in, or take some sand out to make sure it's level with the rest of them. Because the stone varies from 1.5 to 2.5 inches thick, so every single stone's a different height, so it's a very difficult stone to work with. But it does look very good once it's all done. So. This is a pattern we're using here. Turn it this way. We're actually laying it just how the paper sits on here. You can see here. And we're actually replacing the 4 and the 2 with a 18 by 30 that we have. Other than that, it's exactly how you see.
That's the whole check.
So then there's a 4 that's going here, right?
Yeah.
On a street.
So here's the different sizes we got. We've got a, what is this, Dan? 18 by 18?
Little squares are 18 by 18. These are 12 by 18. Those ones are 12 by 12. Look how good the colors are in a few of those.
Yeah, a couple of these. I see they gave us the junkiest pallet ever, though. This whole thing broke when I lifted it up, this corner. So these are just laying right on the, so we had to put it on the other pallet. Just about dropped every single one of them as soon as I lifted it out of the truck, though.
Some of those are thick too, look at those.
And you can see the difference in thickness in some of these, which is what makes it so difficult to lay, how irregular they are. These are 12 by 24 here. These are 24 by 24, which are the biggest pieces. Here we've got a 18 by 24 and the 18 by 30 here. And that is all of them. So there's a 7-piece pattern. Would normally be 6, but we got these as well because we wanted some bigger pieces, so we're replacing the 18 by 12 and the 18 by 18 in one spot with one of those to add some bigger pieces into the pattern, which is like that guy there you can see.
So where are we at here? We should be at this piece.
So we've got to put, so this piece here is the big piece up here that we just put in, so we got to put the number 2 in, which is a 12 by 18. So we got to find ourselves a 12 by 18 for here. Put it in, realize how off it is. Then we're going to have to take sand, which usually on a normal patio we'd have all the sand screeded out perfectly, and then we would just lay them down, not walk on the sand at all and mess it up. But with how uneven, like you can see these are, we've pretty much got to individually set each one. So just gonna get it rough, set it back down, check it. You can see this side out here is a little high. Wiggle it into place. I'll put a little more up here. And then, you want to hand me one of the mallets, Chase?
got music, everything. How'd you do all that?
High budget production, buddy.
That's good though, I like it.
Then we'll take our level, run it back, and we want to make sure that we're staying consistent the whole way. We don't want to have, we got a little bit of just touching the line a little bit bigger. And then you can see underneath, if you want to move back a bit, we don't have any gap underneath. We want to make sure we don't have dips in here where the level looks like this, where it's touching up here and we've got a dip underneath it. Want to keep it consistent the whole way so it looks flat. The patio doesn't have waves up and down in it like that. Because the top of these are so irregular, you're going to get a little bit of it, but really you just got to find a happy medium and find out where it's most average and it's going to look right. Like this one here, you can see this side here, you've got a big dip underneath it. But then if we come over here, it's pretty much level here. We don't have the dip because this falls off here. We'll check this side down here. You can see we're good there. So this side just pretty much comes off and it's just the way the natural stone is. There's a bit of a hump here that causes that. So you just gotta check it in multiple different spots, and on average, if the block is pretty level, then it's pretty good. So like I said before, it takes about 2 to 3 times as long to lay this patio because of how difficult it is to do. Got the paver dog Gus out here. Gussie. He's only 17, so he's pretty deaf.
Pretty ancient.
So as you guys can see there, it's a pretty slow, tedious process to do. It's definitely worth it. It's a very good looking stone, but it is a very difficult process. Basically we have to do that with every single stone, and like you saw, I picked that stone up 2 or 3 times after I set it down the first time. So the entire patio, you're literally laying every single stone 2 to 3 times. So it is twice as long to lay a patio compared to a concrete product or a man-made product, or even some of the thermal cut bluestone. The reason we went with this natural cleft bluestone, or anyone would want to go with a natural cleft bluestone over a thermal cut bluestone, is it's got a little more texture on top, which some people like. That really wasn't a selling point for us on this project. It was really the color. The natural cleft bluestone is going to have a lot more of that variance in color like you see in the patio, where a thermal bluestone patio is going to be more of one solid color, and it's going to be more of a bluish gray color. You're not going to get those vibrant reds and irony colors in them like you do in this patio. So that's another reason why people choose to go with the natural cleft patio over the thermal cut stone. What's that? What do you think about laying this material?
Oh, you know, it's slow going, but looks nice in the end.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's a little slower going than most jobs.
I think it takes honestly about twice as long as a normal patio. It really does, because it's like laying every single paver 2 or 3 times.
Well, we would have this laid in a day if it was normal patio.
Yeah. We'd.
You still have to end up screening it too. So it's like, you're not.
Yeah, you're still. You're
you
still.
don't get the skip screen.
Yep, you still screed it. The only thing I was thinking that saves us time is we haven't really had to cut much. We've cut like 4 or 5 block, but
Although these block cut really easily. But
yeah, the block cut really easily too.
yeah, the way the pattern ends up working out, and it works out squares.
That pattern.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a pain.
I don't know if we just got really lucky with how it works, or if they all are kind of.
Yeah, and well, this whole edge along here, we just.
That was Josh making stuff work.
Yeah, we just kind of made it work. It's not following the pattern exactly, otherwise we would have had to cut along the entire edge.
The pattern somehow, I don't know how, but other than cutting that one corner piece.
Oh, up there,
up
yeah.
there,
It just
I don't
worked
know
out.
how
It
that
worked out
blended in
perfectly.
as perfect as it
Yeah. It's all you.
What would,
Made
what
it
would
happen.
we do with that, Josh? That's like the real question we gotta ask ourselves.
Pretty
What-
boring work day.
What would we do without Josh? New bracelets coming. New bracelets. So as you can see, we've been installing it for a few days. I would say it took about 2 full days to install it, and then about a half a day to kind of wrap it up and do some polymeric sanding at the end there. We started on a Thursday, or we started on a Wednesday, Worked all day Wednesday, worked all day Thursday, and we spent probably 3-4 hours in the morning wrapping up the rest of the patio on Friday, and then a couple hours in the afternoon just cleaning up the site, doing some black dirt, and while I was doing the polymeric sand, like you'll see. So essentially, a patio that size, we could have had it pretty much completed in one day and came back, spent another half day polymeric sanding and cutting up some edges and things like that. Which leads to another benefit of using the stone that we found in this patio. If this works with every single patio, obviously I don't know. This was the first natural bluestone patio I've installed, or this natural cleft pattern bluestone. Basically it worked out where we only had to cut one piece, the entire patio. We just made the patio a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller so we could just fit full pieces in on the sides, so we didn't have to cut anything. This patio worked out really good for that. Spent zero time pretty much cutting. Couple minutes cutting one stone, and that's literally all it took to cut. So that was a huge benefit because we didn't have to cut a bunch of pieces like we would normally with the patio. So I'm glad we could make that work out that way. That saved us a lot of time, and it saved the customer a lot of money because we didn't have to charge them to go around and cut all the sides on it. So like you'll see here, we're jumping into the polymeric sanding portion once we're kind of done with the patio and everything. We chose to go with the Ivory polymeric sand in this. This is an SRW product that we use. This is actually my first time using this SRW polymeric sand. And I think it worked out really well, actually. This polymeric sand was a really good polymeric sand. I liked it. It's very fine. It was almost like a white sand you'd find on like a beach in Florida or something like that. It was just a very fine white sand. And it turned out looking excellent. It's exactly what we were looking for in this project with this polymeric sand. That was one of the only questions I kind of had going into it, was how well the polymeric sand would turn out. And our local supplier, Hedberg Supply, that we got the product from, they had to special order it, so we couldn't really see the sand at first when we got everything and we got the ball rolling on the project. It took a few days to get in, so that was kind of one of the only ifs I had in the back of my mind. But yeah, the polymeric sand was a really great sand. It really made the rest of the patio stand out using that sand. The day before, we tried using some of Technic Steel Gray polymeric sand, which is what we use pretty much on every single patio, and it's great sand. It works excellent, but the gray color just kind of dulled down the whole patio, and it didn't really make it stand out like this white polymeric sand does. So here's a couple of clips of me just kind of sweeping it in and working it around. Basically, the patio's got to be 100% dry to install the polymeric sand. Sweep the sand around, get the grooves kind of where you want them. Run the plate compactor over it usually, and then run your leaf blower around and then water it after that. Now in this project we didn't run the plate compactor over it. We ended up choosing not to because every single stone we hand set, and we set with the dead blow hammer to get it to the height we wanted. And we were, it just wasn't necessary to run the plate compactor because the gaps were about half-inch gaps on average. And the reason for running the plate compactor, not only to set the stones, which we had already done with the dead blow hammer, was also to help vibrate the sand down into the smaller cracks in a patio. But with this patio having half-inch gaps, it just really wasn't necessary to run the plate compactor. And our concern was, because using the hammer a few times, we split a few blocks if we hit them too hard. We didn't want to start plate compacting it and seeing that some of the blocks would either split, and we also had concerns with some of the 12 by 12 pieces. It seemed to wiggle around a lot just by us walking back and forth on the patio. So we really wanted to be careful that when we started plate compacting it, we didn't drag the compactor and it would twist some of the blocks, because these half-inch gaps were held in place by nothing other than gravity of the blocks staying there. So running that plate compactor, we were worried about blocks shifting and some of the gaps becoming larger or smaller, some of the blocks becoming crooked in there. So that's why we chose not to run the plate compactor in there. We didn't see it necessary. The risk was more than what the reward of it would be, and the reward was pretty much nothing, I thought. So we opted not to do that on this. However, on a normal polymeric sand job, on a normal patio, you'd want to run a plate compactor in there. So, but that can be a whole different video we'll talk about in the future. Polymeric sands, which types we use, why we like them, and for what applications, and how to use them. So stay tuned if you'd like to see more videos about that. And actually, you guys, if you'd like to see more videos about that kind of stuff, how to install this stuff we do, let me know in the comments down below what you'd like to see. If there's anything else in this project you want me to talk about a little bit more, or show you a little bit more. We've got all kinds of different patio projects coming up this summer, so got plenty of time to make videos on all those kinds of things. Alright guys, and that's basically about all it took to do this patio. Now, I say all it took because watching the video it looks pretty simple, but in reality we had about a week's worth of time wrapped into this project. Not only because some of the stone that had arrived was not quite what we thought it would be, so we had to monkey back and forth with getting some new stone there too, but yeah, really this is one of the most difficult patios I think we've installed in a long time. We did a natural flagstone bluestone patio at my parents' cabin. That turned out beautiful, but it was kind of that same thing where you have to set each one individually. The only difference is some of those pieces are just huge, you know, 100, almost 200-pound pieces, so it was really quite the project to do those. So that I would say is a little bit harder than this stuff. Nonetheless, this stuff takes pretty much about twice as long as a normal patio would take. So anybody planning on doing this for themselves or wanting this in their yard, just realize that whether you pay somebody to do it yourself, it's gonna cost about twice as much as a normal patio would. Now, not quite twice as much. The material is relatively cheap compared to some of the options for man-made pavers. So yeah, it all comes down to the time of how long it's going to take to install it, and that's really good. The cost is going to be double on that because you're going to have way more man hours into it. So if you enjoyed watching this video, let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and feel free to check out some of our other videos on the channel if you'd like to see some of those. Like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.